Okay, same stuff, right? All the time. You live inside the new heaven and new earth. At the end of the Bible, all of biblical prophecy, including the book of Revelation, has been entirely fulfilled. You live in the new heaven and new earth, whether you believe me or not, essentially. The biggest difficulty in understanding the Bible, especially from a prophetic standpoint, is interpreting the imagery language as such. The reason the end of the world has not happened, by many people's admission, is because they're taking idiomatic language, they're taking imagery language and demanding that it be taken literally. So instead of looking at an image and being able to decode the image and understand what the image is saying, people look at the image and they require the actual image itself to manifest in physical reality. So this is the difficulty as to why the end of the world has actually happened in the past, but individuals don't observe it or don't recognize that it's happened. Along the same lines, we are going to discuss the special spiritual miracles, the special spiritual powers that you see all throughout the New Testament. There's a very famous verse, John 14:12, which in part says that greater works than these you shall do, because I, speaking to Jesus, I will be going to my Father. So greater works than these you shall do. Individuals usually look at a verse like this and they say, hey, greater works than what Jesus did, we're supposed to be able to do on the planet. You know, we can do greater works than Jesus did. Meanwhile, that very same person, of course, being a modern individual, is reading about all the incredible works that the first century did. And again, right here, you've got one of these very, very, very odd issues where regular reading practice is just set aside in order to support religious tradition. If a person is reading that account in John 14, according to, I think, how you would read really any text, you would see that Jesus is holding a conversation with his disciples and you're reading a record of that conversation. Being that that conversation took place 2,000 years ago, you yourself were not there. Thus, when Jesus is saying, greater works than these you shall do because I go to the Father, he is speaking directly to the individuals who live in the first century. Consequently, we see exactly that generation of people doing these great spiritual works. I'm not talking about regular stuff like I'm praying for an individual who has a fever and they may or may not be healed, you know, or someone had a surgery, we're praying for them and hopefully they're healing faster or they're more comfortable than they would be if we weren't. I'm not talking about stuff like that, which I'm really pretty much okay with. I think that that's accurate. I'm talking about the feeding 5,000 people with bread variety miracle here, okay? The people that are doing actions like that are in the Bible. They exist in the first century church. Here's some examples. In Acts, in the Acts of the Apostles, Peter has a man and a wife, a couple that lie to him. He instantly knows they lie, and they die on the spot. First, I think the man dies, and later on the wife comes in, she lies about the same thing, and she dies. That's special spiritual gifts. That's not stuff that's going on today. In one instance, let's see here, there's so many of these. Paul has special powers that are being done by him. He can take handkerchiefs off of his body, put them on a sick person, and they'll be healed. That's a special variety. In one instance in Acts 8, the Ethiopian eunuch, that guy that's there baptizing that man is instantly transported from one city to another. He's taken and he's gone, like in the flash of an eye, in an instant. He's transported from one city to another place. That's a special type of miracle. You see what I'm saying? It's a special breed of miracle. That's not stuff that you see today at all. You know, and individuals will wonder all the time, they're like, why don't we see actions like that today? The reason you don't see actions like it today is because actions like this are no longer happening because they're happening to the first century church. They're the people that are going through the end of days. They're the people that's going through the tribulation. They need the additional spiritual works. Just like Jesus said, it's not you. You aren't a part of this. This is a huge difficulty for people to have. And I don't know what we're supposed to really do as far as fixing the problem in general. But let's take it one step further and let's... There's so many other examples of these extreme miracles. In one instance, Paul is preaching late into the night. A guy falls out of a multi-story building, falls on the floor. He's taken to be dead. He's not. He's instantly healed, instantly healed right then by Paul. A man falling out of a multi-story building in the first century is at the very least crippled for life. That person is instantly healed. We're talking about special miracles, okay? In one instance, Paul is trying to convince like a proconsul of the city to become a believer in the Messiah, and he's being challenged by like a practicer of witchcraft. Paul blinds that guy. He says, you will be blind for a season. And right then, instantly, he's blinded. That stuff doesn't happen today, man. You don't see actions like that. Even all the people that talk about the miracles that they've done and that they've witnessed in their own life, even individuals who are big on deliverance, I'm telling you, I've never seen deliverance match, which is what's in the Bible. I've never seen that level of spiritual gift manifest. I've been around people who are able to say that they're able to heal individuals. I've seen people healed. I'm not so much against miracles happening today as much as explain to a person that those miracles that happen today are not of the variety of feeding 5,000 people with bread. Think about this, and let's move into Revelation, okay? Now, in Revelation, in chapter 7, you have 144,000 individuals that are sealed. What are they sealed with? They're sealed with spiritual power that's allowing them to get through the rest of the tribulation, okay? This group of people we think has never existed on the planet. I say that this group of people is, again, explaining to you, defining the first century church. They are the ones that are endowed with special spiritual power that would allow them to live through the tribulation. Those people lived in the first century. The 144,000 is explaining to you that group of people with special spiritual gifts. They lived in the first century. Move forward in Revelation 11, the two witnesses. A lot of people want to know about these two witnesses. Look, if you're looking at it from a figurative standpoint, the two witnesses is Moses and Elijah. However, from a realistic standpoint, what's happening on the planet, this is detailing, again, the first century church. They are the individuals who are endowed with special spiritual power. Those people are being figuratively described to you as the two witnesses. They're the ones that are fighting against the beast, which is the Jewish authority structure that's killing the saints all throughout the world. The Jewish authority structure, it's the people that exist, that have the power, they exist in the first century. The two witnesses, and again, discussing them. Look at Revelation 20. Again, a large number of people end up being sealed. We look at these individuals having special spiritual power. We look forward to being them and being on the planet with special spiritual bodies. Think about this. The individual with special spiritual bodies, do they have special spiritual power? Yeah. Those people exist in the first century. You're reading about them in the accounts of Acts. Those people exist in that generation. Just like Jesus said, this generation shall not pass away until all these things take place. The event is happening to them. So once again, through the religious tradition of living in the last days, we've allowed ourselves to read the record of a 2,000-year-old conversation as if the conversation is being held with us. When Jesus is saying, greater works than these you shall do because I go to the Father, he is not talking about you, the person that lives today. You are not the one doing the greater works. The people that are doing the greater works exist in the first century. Read the Acts of the Apostles. You're reading about a group of people, a generation of people who is endowed with special spiritual power. These people exist in the first century. That power is not available to you, and you do not have it today. The miracles and whatnot that take place today are not the same as what took place inside of biblical days in the first century. It's discussing the first century church, which of course is also the people that live in the last days. They are the ones that are going through the tribulation. Thus, they are the ones that have the special spiritual power. So there you go.